the element of surprise really going effectively with Seth Rollins, and now it seems like they're trying to do the same thing with the Wyatts and going in the same direction they were going with the Shield earlier this year, going nowhere with it. The only one that you would expect to benefit from this is Bray Wyatt, who I expected would be champion at least by October of this year. I was really hoping they were going to keep the Wyatt family together longer than what they did, and Bray Wyatt was going to continue to be the leader in the position of being the leader and the voice of the Wyatt family and be WWE champion by at least October, and that didn't come into fruition, and that really upset me with everything that Bray Wyatt had going for him throughout 2014, the feud with John Cena and just everything. For Bray Wyatt, the feud with Chris Jericho, phenomenal cage matches with both Chris Jericho and John Cena, which really put Bray Wyatt's stock through the roof in WWE, and now he's broken away from Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, who I would have expected to have held the tag team titles at least once before they broke up. It would have made more sense if they would have been tag team champions and one would have turned on the other. But it makes no sense to me that Luke Harper is the Intercontinental Champion, caught up with this feud with Dolph Ziggler, who they're pushing. It makes sense they're pushing Dolph Ziggler, but it makes no sense to me at all how Luke Harper is the Intercontinental Champion and Eric Rowan has no title as a fan favorite, still wearing the goat's mask. It seemed like they were going to go in the direction of having him be infatuated with Renee Young, the backstage announcer. They killed off that idea, and they're just promoting him now as Big Red, a name put on him labeled by John Bradshaw Layfield. And since they labeled him Big Red, they've been going nowhere with his character as well. So really, at the end of the day, the only one that's benefiting from the separation of the Wyatts is Bray Wyatt, and the only one who probably has a chance of becoming champion at this point is Bray Wyatt. Now, am I a Bray Wyatt fan? More so a fan of Bray Wyatt when the Wyatt family were together, more so than that, and not so much now, because it doesn't seem like any of the Wyatts are headed in a profitable direction, even though the feud with Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose is getting more interesting all the time. The intensity and the emotion is getting higher all the time, and they're really promoting this Dean Ambrose-Bray Wyatt feud, which makes me wonder where they're headed with this going in to the start of 2015. They're promoting it up until at least the 20th of December, which is next month. They're promoting it in tours for Canada and throughout the United States. So obviously they're going to be running with Bray Wyatt versus Dean Ambrose for a while, and hopefully it will elevate one of the two into championship contention for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship against whoever the champion is by the time they're the number one contender. They were nominated for Superstar of the Year with the impacts that they made throughout the year. Both Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose were. Neither one of them came up with a victory. It really surprised me that Roman Reigns was nominated and won the award for Superstar of the Year with the absence of Reigns back in September. He had an unexpected injury which sidelined him, and I was really surprised and both upset with the idea of Roman Reigns being nominated as Superstar of the Year with how Seth Rollins had outperformed Roman Reigns all throughout 2014, becoming Mr. Money in the Bank and becoming a potential contender for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Really disappointed with that, and with how Bray Wyatt definitely outperformed Roman Reigns throughout the year in his feuds with John Cena and Chris Jericho. I really thought Bray Wyatt was a shoe-in to win it. Brock Lesnar being nominated made sense to me because Brock Lesnar had won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship from John Cena at SummerSlam and defeated The Undertaker at this year's WrestleMania for the first time in 2 decades, so it made sense to me that Brock Lesnar was a shoe-in to win it. But I was really leaning towards someone like a Bray Wyatt or Dean Ambrose because I'm a really big Dean Ambrose fan because of how he represents a Brian Pillman kind of character, with how psychotic he is and just how far they could have went with Dean Ambrose's character, and they still could go at the beginning of 2015. He's one of my picks to win this year's Royal Rumble along with Roman Reigns, even though I wasn't impressed with how they decided to make Roman Reigns the Superstar of the Year. If it had been up to WWE creative, probably Brock Lesnar or Bray Wyatt would have took that distinction. If it hadn't been up to the fans through the app, it probably would have been someone like a Bray Wyatt or a Brock Lesnar winning it. But they really have to do something now with the Wyatts to get the interest back to the Wyatts that we once had when they were a threesome and one of the more dominant factions in WWE, because right now they're doing nothing with the Wyatt family members in the way of creativity, and they're really heading down a direction that they were headed with the Shield earlier this year when they broke them up. The feud with the Shield and Evolution was impressive this year, and I really thought they were going to be a fan favorite team, but obviously the reason why they became fan favorites as quickly as what they did feuding with Evolution was to set up for the breakup of the Shield, which had been rumored on websites like ProWrestling.com and Figure 4 Online for quite some time, and they finally brought that into fruition after WrestleMania 30 because they had to have a big fallout for WrestleMania 30, and obviously the only way they could do it is by having the Shield break up because they weren't ready for the Wyatts to break up. And that's another thing the Wyatts did as a threesome. They were very impressive in their feud with the Shield from earlier this year. I believe they had a feud at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, which was the pay-per-view before WrestleMania 30, and the Wyatts had a lot of fans in this match, and it was a match that had been rumored and discussed for months leading up to the anticipated feud between the Shield and the Wyatts, which finally came to fruition after months of conversation. So, the Wyatts did a lot as a three-man team, and I don't expect they're going to do as much as singles competitors. If someone like Eric Rowan wins a U.S. title, then maybe I'll be more convinced that they're going to do something with them. But the only one right now holding a title is Luke Harper, and you would think that Luke Harper and Eric Rowan would be feuding for the Intercontinental title rather than seeing Luke Harper and Dolph Ziggler feuding for the Intercontinental title, which isn't interesting to me at all. In my opinion, Dolph Ziggler should be up for the championship and should have been considered a top contender for that title long before now than what he is now. It's only now that he's being considered a top contender for the WWE and Intercontinental Championships, and it's unknown at this point if he's going to win either major championship, but in my opinion he should, and they should get Luke Harper away from feuding with Dolph Ziggler and have Luke Harper feud with Eric Rowan. That would make more sense, and it would convince me that they were going to do more with the Wyatt family members. Right now, the only one they seem to be doing a lot with is Bray Wyatt, because he still is dropping those creative promos that he was dropping as the voice of the Wyatt family when they were together. He's still as psychotic as he was, probably even more psychotic than he was probably 3 or 4 months ago prior to the Wyatts breaking up. And the way they went about the Wyatts breaking up is neither one of the three turned on the other two, or Bray Wyatt didn't even part ways with the Wyatt family. They just kind of disappeared for a while. They were repackaged with different gimmicks, similar gimmicks, but different gimmicks in the same light. And they just kind of just reappeared on television weeks apart from one another. Bray Wyatt appeared on the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view attacking Dean Ambrose in the match with Seth Rollins inside the Hell in a Cell, which was very effectively done. By the way, the weeks after, about 5 or 6 days before the Survivor Series pay-per-view, probably a little longer than that, Luke Harper shows up and he targets Dolph Ziggler for some reason after having weeks of his eyes on Dolph Ziggler and the Intercontinental Championship. And then Eric Rowan just shows up as part of Team Cena for the match with Team Cena and Team Authority, which was Match of the Year this year at the Slammy Awards. And the interesting thing about the Wyatt family members were the Wyatt family members, I don't even think, won a Slammy Award this year at the Slammy Award show. And they're the ones that are getting a lot of attention now on social media because fans are just trying to figure out what kind of direction they are headed in. So, the direction of the Wyatts is pretty uncertain at this point in time, and it's not one of the more interesting things going on professional wrestling television. And I really wish it was, because the Wyatts came in with so much creativity, and I was really hoping they were going to make the most of the opportunity they had after bringing them over from NXT, where they were also very impressive as a three-man team, just as impressive as they turned out to be on Raw and SmackDown. People were talking about them on NXT. They were waiting for this highly anticipated debut, and the debut lived up to its hype. They feuded with people like John Cena and Chris Jericho in a very effective way, and they went from there to doing nothing with their characters. The only one we can expect big things from at this point is Bray Wyatt, and the only one who, in my opinion, is in a position to challenge for the championship, even though it hasn't happened up to this point, is Bray Wyatt. And probably by early 2015, that will come into fruition, because he was a candidate for Superstar of the Year. And in my opinion, with his gimmick and how just twisted it is and how unpredictable it is, he could be a top contender for the WWE Championship, if not that, a winner of the 2015 Royal Rumble. Now, it's a very far-fetched prediction to say that Bray Wyatt is going to win the Royal Rumble, but that would be a surprise if he did win the Royal Rumble, as opposed to an obvious prediction of a Roman Reigns or a returning Batista, which is the conversation on professional wrestling news websites like ProWrestling.com and PW Insider and PW Torch. That would be a turn of events for the storylines if someone like a Bray Wyatt came from out of nowhere and won it, coming out of the feud with Dean Ambrose from earlier this year, and is going to be continuing up until at least the 20th of December for Canadian tours and the United States. So that's amazing to kind of put that into perspective for you and say Bray Wyatt is going to win the Royal Rumble as an early prediction, like I predicted previously that Reigns would win it. But, what surprises me is that the Wyatts, are really slow at this point in time, and it's really disappointing to me, because I was a huge fan of the Wyatts family as a three-man team, more so than I am as singles wrestlers, and I thought they had more of a profitable future as a unit. And I really didn't expect to see the Wyatts separate. I was hoping the Wyatts, with their absence, were going to come back. They were going to have a logical explanation as to why they were returning, either to win the WWE Championship for Bray Wyatt or the tag team titles for Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, which really surprised me they didn't win when the Wyatt family were together. When Bray Wyatt was feuding with John Cena, it would have made perfect sense to come out of WrestleMania 30 and have Bray Wyatt challenge for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship in a feud with Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan. That would have been very different from seeing Daniel Bryan facing Kane